Welcome to the BackPageLead Vidcast. Wayne, Carey, how are you?
Good, Charlie.
Now, just quickly before we get on to the footy proper, tell me about the EJ Whitten game. What was that like, running out into the Etihad Stadium in front of a big crowd again? Well, when I say big, medium-sized.
Probably more than the Kangaroos get at their home games. But no, 25,000, it was a good turnout. I had a ball. The game was fun, but I really enjoyed before the game and after the game, just catching up with the boys and some ex-teammates and some opposition players that you got along well with over the years. And all in all, it was good fun. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was obviously a very relaxed atmosphere out on the ground, but did it whet your appetite for more? Did you want to?
Oh, you get a little bit of a buzz about having a kick, but that's all it is. I think but like I said, the fun of it for me was just catching up and reminiscing about old times. It was a lot of fun.
How was Akka? Did you get any lace-out passes from him as you'd hoped?
Akka was taking it a little serious, some may say, but he did. He gave me one lace out and then let me know about it. He ran up and said, well done. But I must admit it was lace out. I didn't have to move.
There's a few blokes there who looked like they might have let their gym memberships lapse a bit.
Yeah, probably less than other years though. I think most blokes were pretty fit, but it's played in good spirits, and I think that's why a few people have had a bit of a laugh at Akka, because Akka was. I knew Akka was an offensive player. You know, we all know that he can kick goals and he's skilled, but I think he chased harder than I've ever seen him chase in his life the other night, and I didn't see him do much of that during his AFL career. But no, he was good fun, and yeah, it was good.
So just quickly on your possible comeback to suburban footy, you're going to have a game for Maribyrnong Park or not?
Yeah, I think I will. A few weeks, have a game for Maribyrnong Park. And then from there we'll see where it takes us. But I'm going to train with them tomorrow night.
Yep.
Have a bit of a run, so do a little bit of preparation in terms of football training, which is something that I haven't done. So that'll be a little test in itself. You
set yourself up like Dermot did when he made his comeback for Frankston or Hastings, and some nitwit king hit him from behind.
No, well, that's a risk you take, Charlie. I'm a big boy. I can look after myself.
Fair enough. Now the footy proper. You and I both got West Coast's win over Geelong, right? And we think we called it as a narrow win too. Should Geelong fans be worried about that? It's 2 losses in a row, and they've lost to pretty good teams both times. Is that something they should be concerned about?
Oh, well, I think you just summed it up. They've lost to pretty good sides. They've won some close ones this year. Could have quite easily dropped 2 or 3 of those games earlier in the year. They didn't. Still ultra competitive. 2 narrow losses. I wouldn't be too concerned if I was Cat fans. They're still one of the very best sides in the comp. I think what it did show though was the improvement and the massive improvement that West Coast has made. I mean, they beat Carlton a few weeks ago, and then to beat Geelong in the fashion that they did shows that they are the real deal. And if they get a couple of finals, who knows? I mean, I know that Woosher and the rest of the committee at the Eagles and the players themselves wouldn't be sort of getting too far ahead, but I honestly think that while they're good players, the Embleys occur, the Coxes, and then with the emergence of these younger players, they are a quality side, and especially at home. So,
if
to
they
finish,
if
they get a home final, I mean,
straight into the prelim.
Yeah, they look ominous, and I enjoy watching the way they play. I mean, they're playing exciting footy, but for the Cats fans. I think I said last year, Charlie, if they lose Gary Ablett, they'd only lose a percentage. Probably the way I analysed it yesterday with a couple of mates when we were discussing Geelong, I said, well, losing Joel Selwood is like losing your engine. And that's what he is to Geelong. That's how good he is. I think he's one of the very best players in the competition, right up there with Judd. You lose your engine. Losing Ablett was just like losing a couple of turbo jets on top of that engine. He is ultra important to them. They get him back in a couple of weeks. I think he's still got 2 to run, hasn't he? Or maybe
only he's back next week.
Might be back next week. Yeah. But he's just so important to them. But no, the Cats still a lot to look forward to.
Where was it just won and lost quickly? Was it the fact that Cox and Natanui were able to jump over Brad Ottens, who was fighting a kind of lone hand, and gave their midfielders a bit more of first touch?
I just think all over, really. I think they kicked 9 unanswered goals at one point against the Cats. That doesn't often happen. So, you know, a little worrying for the Cats was that they weren't able to stop that run.
Yep.
You know, generally, you know, 3 or 4 goals, and you try to, you know, you obviously slow it down or at least get one yourself. But 9 in a row unanswered was pretty big for West Coast. It just goes to show you how well they play the ground over there and how good they are at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about a subject dear to both their hearts. The Kangaroos, North Melbourne Footy Club, and they're totally insipid, pathetic. I should get out the thesaurus and find out a few more words. Hopeless performance against Collingwood yesterday. They built this game up as a great test of their ability to mix it with the top 4 side, which they haven't really been able to do under Brad Scott, and failed the test abysmally, didn't they?
They certainly did. They looked second rate and very un-Kangaroo-like performance, to be honest. Although in saying that, over the last year against those top sides has been all too familiar.
Yeah.
And I was at the game, went to the game and watched it yesterday, missed the first 20 minutes or so. And from what I understand, that was the best 20 minutes, because from there on in, the Kangaroos didn't look like it. They really looked second rate against
were they trying?
An outclassed, you know, they were just outclassed, professional, polished unit in Collingwood. Just made them look second rate, and it really did look like a training run at times.
So were the Kangaroos trying? Did you sense that they kind of given up the ghost?
No player doesn't try. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But I mean, it has to be mental. I mean, they're not that far apart.
No.
They are not that far apart, the Kangaroos. I think they've made some inroads this year in certain areas, but certainly mentally against, you know, the top sides, and Collingwood being that the last couple, they just capitulate. And that's exactly what they did. And it's not giving up. It's, I don't know, an
inferiority complex or something.
Yeah, it's something that they certainly have to address very quickly, because those performances they're unforgivable, and the Kangaroos don't generally serve that up. I think they'd be very disappointed today.
We'll talk about Lindsay Thomas in a second, but Collingwood's got clearly the best points for tally after 16 rounds, and clearly the best defence, and their percentage is.
I think you said before we started chatting that would probably be some sort of record, I'd imagine, after 16
180,
rounds.
A percentage of 180 after 16 rounds.
That's remarkable. But you know, they just play good team football, and yes, they have some, you know, quality players in there, but you know, they all do their job. They are just a well-run unit. Doesn't matter who goes out or who comes in, they do their job. Jolly, you know, obviously was back and you know, gave them something through the midfield. But you know, your Daisy Thomas, your Swans, your Pendleburys, you know, they're their stars. But it wouldn't matter whether they were there or not yesterday. They just all do their job. Harry O'Brien's fantastic down back. I mean, just a well-oiled unit. Travis Cloak's contested marks were as good as I've seen in wet weather conditions.
Yeah.
It was really good to watch if you're a Collingwood supporter, not so good if you're a Kangaroo supporter.
Just quickly, you get some quite good mail, got some good inside mail in the industry. Mick Malthouse, will he be there next year doing that director of coaching role, or do you reckon he'll be elsewhere?
Oh, I think there's a little bit more in this story, and it'll come out, I'm sure, in the next few weeks. There are a few underlying things that are going on at Pyland, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it, and maybe even talk about it here on BackPageLead, Charlie. But we'll wait.
Do you think other clubs have made approaches to him via his manager?
Look, I'm not going to say too much now, but there are some things happening at Collingwood, and I know Eddie came out on the weekend and was saying that yes, Nathan will be coach next year, and whether Mick's in the role that they've set out for him. That's the question mark. You know, like I said, I really think it's still a watch this space.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit to be played out.
Fair enough. Lindsay Thomas, just while we're on the Kangas and Collingwood game, missed another sitter. I think he was 13 metres out yesterday. Got the worst case of the kicking yips I think we've seen in footy for many a long season. Lindsay
Thomas, and I don't like saying this, and especially against
your boys,
a Kangaroo player, but I think it's time Lindsay has a spell. I mean, he really has to go back and get some form in the VFL. Simple as that. I mean, he's paid to kick goals. He's probably not getting enough of the ball, and those. I mean, you talk about pressure, a kick after the siren, a kick to keep you in the game. All of those different pressure type kicks. Yesterday, 10 goals down, no pressure whatsoever, 15 metres out. To miss by as much as he did, I mean, it's remarkable, really. And I feel for him because there's obviously something going on upstairs for him to really lose all control of his kicking action. And he's a very skilled player. I mean, it's remarkable to how this is broken down. He really has to go back and work on it and go back to the reserves VFL and get that right, I think.
Yeah, sad to see. And I think at three-quarter time he was looking quite distressed. He had his head in his hands and a towel over his head. Yeah, so it's clearly eating away at his confidence and his morale.
Yeah, so let's
have a spell and
go back and build that confidence and come back in a better player, and I'm sure he will. He's got a lot of talent.
Yep. A match on Sunday, Carlton, who've lost 2 of their past 3 now, beaten surprisingly by the Bulldogs. They're on a bit of a roll themselves. They've won 4 in a row. Did you pick that, Wayne, or were you going to tell me now you picked it, even though you didn't at the time?
No, certainly didn't pick it. Thought the Blues would win.
Yep.
I honestly did. Amazing. You sort of look at that game and you think, well, the Blues. I thought Richmond would win, to be honest, too. I thought that after the flogging they got off the Blues.
Yeah.
But it ended up being Richmond being sort of competitive because of obviously the flogging they copped off the Blues. Maybe the Blues got a little bit ahead of themselves, thought it was just going to happen after giving Richmond a touch up the week before. Drop off 5%, Bulldogs fighting to stay in the 8. I mean, that really is the difference. And I think that the Bulldogs all of a sudden are on a bit of a roll, and that confidence, a little bit of that confidence is back. Helps when you got some of your good players back playing well. I mean, Cooney's ultra important to them, and they're playing some good footy. Carlton, boy, they'd be certainly going through their tape quite vigorously today and working out, what went wrong, because everyone in the football world, everyone that speaks to me, especially Carlton supporters, obviously, that come up to in the street, they ask, are the Blues the real deal? Well, they certainly let one slip there, because I honestly thought that was a game they could have won.
But they get a big chance to prove themselves against Collingwood, of course, which is the headline game in round 17 next week. Any early thoughts about that? I mean, on current form, you couldn't see Carlton winning.
No, and I don't think anyone would be tipping the Blues to win that one. Look, the one thing you've known about the Blues and the Bombers over the last few years, even when they've been struggling as a side, they do get up for these big games.
Yeah.
And so you'd expect it to be a crackerjack game. You certainly won't see a Collingwood Kangaroo type game as we did yesterday. I think it'll be a lot closer than what people think, but you can't tip against Collingwood.
Yeah, and it's actually quite an interesting round in round 17, because the Bulldogs take on the Kangaroos, 2 teams just outside the 8, represents a great chance for one of them to get closer.
Well, if the Kangaroos lose against the Bulldogs, it's fair to say they're just about gone. The Bulldogs, it's a must-win for them. So, massive game for both clubs, this one. And the fact that they lost early games makes, obviously this massive, because they really do have to stay in touch with that top 8. I'm not sure who the Bombers play, but, they're hanging in there, the Bombers. Good performance against Richmond.
Yeah.
But it'll be another must-win for them. They're hanging on by the skin of their teeth, and when you've got the Bulldogs and St Kilda, and we spoke about St Kilda in depth, for a long time this year, but they're just sniffing around there as well. I mean, out of those sides who we had in the top 8 at the start of the year, St Kilda and the Bulldogs, all of a sudden starting to get some momentum. St Kilda got a pretty good draw coming home. All of a sudden, those 2 would be making a few above them a little shaky if they sneak into that 8, because we know that they're a quality side. We know that they're quality sides that just got off to bad starts in the season.
Sure. Thanks again for your thoughts, and anyone who's interested in following Wayne Carey's comeback should get out to Maribyrnong Park. What day are they training? Wednesday?
No, Tuesdays and Thursdays, but don't do
Tuesdays
that.
and Thursdays. Bring your camcorders. He's back. See you next week.
Cheers, Charlie.